Hey guys, let's take a look at this mysterious cave in Philadelphia called the Cave of Kelpius. It's located in the woods, and I'm going to show you the inside of the cave and some really weird details about its connection to a secret society and even extraterrestrials. This cave was built by a man called Johannes Kelpius, popularly known as the Monk of the Ridge. It's not accurate to label him as just a monk, because even though he was a religious person, he was more of an astronomer and a scientist. He even had a Ph.D. and he was always looking at the sky through a telescope for some kind of a bizarre arrival. Kelpius was far ahead of his times with his knowledge in technology that common people thought he was a magician. Now, if you look at this cave from the outside, you can see that it was built with great care. Once upon a time, it had a nice door, because here we can see a rusted door hinge and the other one is broken. It's very dark inside, and if the door was closed, it would become pitch black. But when it was built in 1694, it had a fireplace and even a chimney so that Kelpius could perform his experiments alone in this cave. We can see how the roof is arched and not flat, which shows how well constructed this cave is. Inside, we have an earthen floor, but on the walls, you can see a cross, an obvious symbol of God. Right next to it is the inverted cross, which is a popular symbol of Satan, or could mean the cross of Peter as well. You can see other weird symbols and codes painted on these walls. There are no artifacts or anything because most of the belongings of Kelpius were carefully taken away and eventually given to Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of the US, who was also a great astronomer. So, why did Kelpius build a cave here in Philadelphia in the middle of the woods? It's interesting to know that Kelpius sailed all the way from Europe in very bad weather because somehow he was convinced that a woman from sky would be landing in Philadelphia. And this prediction was not only based on his astronomical observation, but also the verses in Revelation 12:14 through 12:16. It talks about a woman who would have wings and give birth to a baby son who was destined to rule the world. So Kelpius reaches Philadelphia with 40 men who were all college graduates. This big team of astronomers and scientists had been observing the stars and planets, and they had some kind of information that the extraterrestrial landing would take place exactly where the cave is now located. As soon as they reached Philadelphia, Kelpius sets up the first astronomical observatory in the province of Pennsylvania. He used a very sophisticated telescope. These 40 guys even took turns to keep looking at the sky 24 hours a day because they did not want to miss out the quote-unquote gods landing here. The telescope that was used by Kelpius was so special that it's still preserved in the American Philosophical Society founded by Benjamin Franklin. The famous astronomer William Herschel created his telescopes based on the telescope used by Kelpius. As a result, he discovered planet Uranus and made plenty of other discoveries as well. Now, you can see that the name Benjamin Franklin keeps popping up a lot. This is because Benjamin Franklin put a lot of effort into preserving the gadgets used by Kelpius. Why? Because Benjamin Franklin himself was a serious believer in extraterrestrials and expected that aliens would land on Earth sooner or later. In 1728, in Articles of Belief, Benjamin Franklin wrote, "Man is not the perfect being but one, rather that as there are many degrees of beings his inferiors, so there are many degrees of beings superior to him." And he repeatedly shows his belief in extraterrestrial life and cosmic pluralism in many of his writings. In another book called Pennsylvania and the First Nations, he writes about the sky woman who descends from heaven, and this goes on and on in a lot of his books. Now, back to Kelpius. Kelpius also used strange devices that probably sent some kind of a signal for extraterrestrials to land on this specific location. Unfortunately, his health declined rapidly and he was in deathbed when he was barely 41 years old. But instead of giving these gadgets to others, he wanted to destroy them. So Kelpius gave a locked box containing these gadgets to his apostle called Geisler and asked him to throw it in the river. Geisler has recorded that when he threw that box into the river, there was a huge explosion and out of the water came flashes of lightning and roars of thunder. This clearly shows that the box must have had some powerful electric or electromagnetic devices. Just outside the cave, you can see a large marble stone. This was set up by a secret society called Rosicrucians, and it says that Kelpius was the first Rosicrucian to come to the US. You can see a lot of interesting symbols in this stone, and you can pause the video if you want and read the entire inscription. But the most intriguing detail about this stone is that it's some kind of a code that can be read only by Rosicrucians. I'll give you an example. On the top, you can see the words chromat. If you Google chromat, you'll see that it's Egyptian for the words "the truth shall be." But the Rosicrucian Society is officially called the Ancient and Mystical Order Rosicrucius. This seems totally irrelevant, but if you reverse the order of these words and then take the first letter of every word, you get chromat. This is from chapter 9 of the book Confessio Fraternitatis RCAD Eruditos Europae. Open quote, "We have a magic writing copied from that divine alphabet with which God writes his will upon the face of celestial and terrestrial nature." End of quote. So, the Rosicrucians are known to make complex codes with their writings that cannot be decoded by people like me. Some people believe that the entire writing on the stone is a secret code. At the bottom, it says that this stone was erected in 1961, so it's over 50 years ago. But if you talk to the locals, they say that it was set up in the late 90s, less than 20 years ago, and it doesn't look 50 years old either. So, what is the secret behind year 1961? If you draw parallel lines to the pyramid, you get a lot of words. Here you can see the words moon, set, wide, and sure enough, in 1961, John F. Kennedy made the historic announcement to put a man on the moon. He was vehemently opposed to secret societies, and some people believe that he was assassinated because of this standpoint. And look at the pyramid and the inverted pyramid on either sides of the cross. What does this cave have to do with the pyramids of Pennsylvania that we saw in my previous video? The Kelpius cave and the pyramids are only 35 miles apart, and they were both built by the Rosicrucian Brotherhood. So these two structures are somehow mysteriously connected. Even today, locals claim to see white smoke coming out of this cave at nights. Some have even heard chanting and other noises after sunset, so it's quite possible that there is some activity going on here. I hope you like this video. I'm finding a lot of intriguing stuff like this, so please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.